Roger and Carolyn Peron's new life with their 5 children felt like a fresh dream. The Peron family bought a massive estate in a secluded corner of Harrisville, Rhode Island. It was a 100-year-old house surrounded by dense woods and rows of dried, ancient trees. Beside the house was a pond where a centuries-old dead tree stood, as if guarding a secret for years. Immediately after moving in, the clock would perpetually stop at 3:07 a.m. sharp, and they would hear the sound of unknown weeping. Though the house seemed innocent at first glance, every brick and wooden frame seemed to carry the history of centuries. The villagers said this house and land were once a refuge for the devil. Many families came here, but none lasted long. At night, unknown whispers and screams could be heard from the forest, blending with the air and making the entire atmosphere more terrifying. However, to the Peron family, these were mere superstitions. But they didn't know that a century-old demonic incident, a cursed chapter, had occurred on this land. Surely you have heard the name The Conjuring at some point. Released in 2013, it was based on the true story of a cursed house in Harrisville, America, in 1971. You are watching Ghostly Scream. We need 1,000 subscribers on our channel, so we earnestly request your love and support. And with that, today we will unveil a history of horror where reality and nightmare merge. Today, look towards the light because today's story is written in darkness. The year is 1968. Ed and Lorraine Warren, a husband and wife, are demonologists or paranormal researchers by profession. They have a countless number of paranormal incidents in their lives. First, they thoroughly investigate paranormal matters, gather proper evidence, and then inform the church. Subsequently, after receiving approval from the church, an exorcism is performed on the victim. This is how their work proceeds. Later, in 1971, they unveiled the mystery of that cursed house bought by the Peron family. The incident began in Harrisville, Rhode Island, in January 1971. Roger and Carolyn Peron bought that old house with their 5 daughters. It was a vast 200-acre estate. The house was good in every way. Land for farming, a farmhouse, a barn, and a pond. Roger and Carolyn have 5 daughters: Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. Their beloved pet dog is named Sadie. The day they moved in, the dog, for some reason, refused to enter the house. Even when pulled forcefully, it wouldn't go inside. Everyone was cleaning and setting things up in the new house. April, the youngest member of the family, found a music box toy with a mirror under a tree by the pond. The other girls were playing hide and clap in the house. During the game, a specific pine board broke. When Roger checked the area, he suspected it might be a storeroom. Breaking the pine board revealed a staircase covered in spiderwebs. Going down, they saw it was the house's basement, which had been sealed for many years. They had thought the house was small, but it was much bigger than they imagined. Roger decided to explore the entire house the next day. A question lingered in their minds. Why was this area kept locked up? That night, their dog, Sadie, barked ferociously from outside the house. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't get the dog inside. Carolyn was very worried about Sadie. Roger assured her that he had chained the dog outside, so it would be fine. The next morning, Carolyn woke up and found bruise marks on her leg. When she went downstairs, she saw a light on near the basement door. Roger had installed a light in the basement, revealing a lot of old furniture, including an old piano. Roger was looking for some old antiques, hoping to sell them for some money. While working in the kitchen, Carolyn asked April to find Sadie to feed her. Suddenly, Roger and Carolyn heard April scream from outside and rushed to her. They found their beloved dog, Sadie, dead next to their house. Meanwhile, at the home of paranormal researchers Ed and Lorraine Warren, a journalist arrived to see Ed's collection of cursed objects for an article. Ed explained that everything in that room was cursed and warned the journalist not to touch anything. He also mentioned that a priest sanctified the room once a month, or else their family could suffer great harm. The journalist revealed his true reason for being there: to see the Annabelle doll. Ed explained that the Annabelle doll is a conduit possessed by a demonic spirit. Ed's daughter, Judy, was listening to their conversation. When caught by Ed, He reprimanded her, reminding her never to enter the room. That night, it was again 3:07 a.m. The clock had stopped. Everyone in the house was asleep except Roger. Suddenly, Christine felt someone pull her leg. She assumed it was her sister. Also, a smell of rotten meat permeated the room. Downstairs, Roger heard a knock on the door but saw nothing when he checked. When checking on the children, he saw Andrea standing on the stairs. "It's late. Why aren't you sleeping?" he asked. "What is Cindy doing?" Cindy usually sleepwalks, but tonight, she was banging her head against the wardrobe while sleepwalking, something she had never done before. Carolyn noticed a new mark on her body that day. Roger suggested she see a skin doctor. Roger had to go to the city for work for a few days. As he left the house, a pigeon fell dead right in front of his feet. That day, April was playing in her room, talking to someone. When Carolyn asked, April said she was playing with a boy named Rory. April asked, "Mom, do you want to see him?" April showed her mother the music box toy she found. She said when the music stops, Rory will appear behind her in the mirror. When Carolyn did it, she saw nothing, but April insisted on playing hide and clap with her mother. While playing, Carolyn went to Cindy's room. When she asked April to clap, 2 hands clapped from inside the wardrobe. When Carolyn checked the wardrobe, she found no one. April arrived, saying she was with Andrea and Nancy. The matter was very concerning. That night, just as Roger was about to arrive home, he got a call. Roger cut the call and announced he had to go to Florida for 2 weeks. There was too much work. Everyone fell asleep that night. The clock stopped again at 3:07 a.m. Cindy was sound asleep in her room. Just like the night before, someone pulled her leg. Cindy again blamed Christine. When she tried to sleep again, this time her leg was pulled much harder. Cindy woke up with a start, terrified. She checked under the bed. The sound of a wooden door creaking, as one opens, was heard. Someone had entered the room. Cindy saw a figure standing behind the door. She called out to Christine, crying and saying there was something behind the door. Christine went to check and found nothing. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and Cindy screamed loudly. Roger came and tried to calm Cindy, but she kept crying. They all thought she had a bad dream, but Cindy completely disagreed. Crying, she told them, "He pulled my leg, and he even threatened me, saying he would kill my entire family." Nearly 2 weeks went by like this, with Roger away from home. One night, Carolyn was looking in the mirror. Her entire body was covered in those marks. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. Carolyn stood by the door, listening intently to where the sound was coming from. Just then, all the photo frames hanging on the walls fell down, and a child's laughter was heard from downstairs. The house clock chimed. Checking the clock, she saw the basement door had opened by itself. Turning on the light, Carolyn approached the stairs. She didn't have the courage to go down, so she stood at the top and shouted, "Whoever is down there, I am locking the door." As she tried to leave the room, the door slammed so hard that she was knocked down the stairs. Someone threw a ball from a corner of the basement. Terrified, Carolyn climbed back up the stairs. A small girl's faint laughter was heard. The light automatically blasted. Frightened, she pulled out a matchbox and lit a match, looking around. The first match went out. Lighting another match, Carolyn kept hitting the door forcefully, but no one could hear her screams. All the girls were asleep. Suddenly, Andrea woke up. She saw Cindy again banging her head against the wardrobe. Andrea helped Cindy back to her bed. A noise came from inside the wardrobe behind her. Cindy suddenly woke up and stared at the top of the wardrobe. Andrea, terrified, looked up and saw a figure that pounced on Andrea. Roger was returning home after finishing his work. He heard screams coming from the house. He rushed into the house and managed to take control of the situation. Following this incident, Carolyn desperately searched for a solution. She eventually found out about Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal researchers. She went to the university to meet them. One day, Ed and Lorraine were discussing an old case they had solved. The incident involved a Canadian farmer who spoke French and was minimally educated. When he became possessed, he miraculously began to speak fluent Latin. At one point during the possession, an inverted cross appeared on his stomach, a sign of the devil. They informed the students that the supernatural force affects a person up to 3 stages. Infestation. Examples include doors opening and closing by themselves, strange noises, strange smells, or the feeling of an invisible presence. Oppression. At this stage, the supernatural force begins to torture the person physically or mentally. Possession. This is when the entity completely takes over the person. Carolyn listened to their entire lecture attentively. She met them through a student and said, "I have been having problems in my house lately. I would be very grateful if you could come to my house." Ed initially indicated he was busy. As they were about to leave, Carolyn pleaded, "I have 5 daughters in my house. They are terrified, and they could be attacked at any moment. Even if you help them just for the sake of your own daughter, I would be grateful." Ed still tried to ignore her and leave, but Lorraine looked into Carolyn's eyes and understood that the woman was helpless. At Lorraine's insistence, Ed agreed to go to their house. They informed her they would arrive the next day. Lorraine knocked on the door and was looking at something outside the house. Carolyn welcomed them inside. Lorraine looked at Roger suspiciously as well. Carolyn informed them that they were currently all sleeping together on the ground floor. Also, it was extremely cold outside, and even with the heater on, the house remained chillingly cold. And at night, the whole house was filled with the smell of rotting meat. Lorraine sensed the presence of something or someone throughout the house. She scrutinized everything. Roger told them that many birds came to their house every night, but in the morning, those birds were found dead in their garden. Moreover, all the clocks in the house stopped at 3:07 a.m. every morning. Lorraine asked to see their basement. When she was taken there, she closed her eyes, trying to feel something. She heard the screams and cries of many people in her ears. Lorraine has some psychic ability through which she can sense supernatural forces. Ed asked Carolyn about the marks on her body. Carolyn claimed it was probably an iron deficiency. Ed asked them why they hadn't left the house even after all these incidents. Roger explained that they had bought the house with all their money, and besides, who would shelter 7 people right now? That's why they couldn't leave the house. Ed was also recording their conversation to get permission from the church to perform an exorcism in the house. Meanwhile, Lorraine was talking to April, the youngest daughter. Lorraine had heard from Carolyn that April spoke to someone, so she asked April about it. April said she wanted to meet her friend. April said his name was Rory. He is always melancholic. If anyone enters the house, he runs away. Lorraine said she wanted to meet him. April handed her the music box toy and told her that if she wanted to meet him, she had to wind the box's key, and she would see him behind her in the mirror. When she did this, she saw a child standing behind the window in the mirror. When she turned back, there was no one. Lorraine then went to the pond beside the house. Suddenly, she heard the creaking sound of a rope behind her. Turning back, she saw a woman's hanging body on the tree. Based on all the evidence, Lorraine and Ed informed them that an exorcism had to be performed in their house. Upon hearing this, Carolyn became afraid. Carolyn said they wouldn't stay in the house, but Ed explained that even if they left the house, the entity would not leave them alone because it had become attached to their family. Carolyn asked, "Who are you talking about?" Lorraine then revealed everything they had witnessed since they set foot in the house. Ed and Lorraine had noticed the influence of a dark force from the moment they arrived. Moreover, surprisingly, they had observed not just one but multiple entities. When Carolyn and Roger sought a solution, they were informed that, first and foremost, they needed permission from the church for an exorcism. To get permission, they needed to gather proper evidence first. Ed also asked Roger if all his children had been baptized. Roger said they did not believe in those things, but Ed warned them to mend their ways while there was still time. After the conversation, Ed and Lorraine returned to their home. Lorraine's daughter, Judy, had been given 2 lockets by her grandmother. One with a picture of Ed and her, and another with just Judy's picture. Judy gave her locket to her mother, Lorraine. At home, Ed was listening to the recording of his interview with Carolyn. Surprisingly, Carolyn's voice was not heard, only Ed's. It was also revealed here the true story behind the plot. Ed researched the farmhouse that Carolyn and Roger bought. Lorraine found a lot of information. The farmhouse was built in 1863. The original owner of the house was a man named Jadson Sherman. He married a woman from Salem named Bathsheba. Brief mention of Salem witchcraft. Bathsheba was from Salem and practiced black magic. After their marriage, Bathsheba had a child when she was only 7 days old. When Jadson returned home from work, he saw that Bathsheba had sacrificed her own child. Bathsheba knew she would be sentenced to death, so she sold her soul to the devil and hanged herself from a tree near the pond beside the house. She cursed the land, after which anyone who came to live in the house became Bathsheba's prey and lost their lives. Bathsheba committed suicide at 3:07 a.m. sharp, which is why all the clocks in the house stopped at that time. Even more surprisingly, the house was later bought by the Walker family, consisting of a mother and a small boy named Rory. One day, Rory got lost in the forest and was never found. Grief-stricken, Rory's mother committed suicide in the house. Also, another little girl reportedly drowned in the pond. At one point in the conversation, the interview recording suddenly started playing. This time, however, an unknown sound of weeping was heard from the recording. Checking the time on the clock, it was 3:07 a.m. It became clear to Ed and Lorraine that the family was in terrible danger. So early the next morning, they didn't delay. Ed and Lorraine went to the Peron's house with a police officer and one of their associates. The officer's name was Brad, and their colleague's name was Drew. Upon arriving, they fitted microphones and cameras in every room. They were there to gather proper evidence, which they would submit to the church to get permission for the exorcism. They also fitted a motion camera in front of the old tree by the pond. They placed holy crosses throughout the house, which was enough to provoke the supernatural force. Night had fallen, and the basement door began to lightly rattle, which Ed witnessed firsthand. With microphones in hand, Ed and Lorraine went down to the basement. Suddenly, Lorraine felt a slight heaviness in her body. Ed kept speaking, "If you are here, give us a sign." A long time passed, but nothing happened. As they were about to leave the basement, the door suddenly slammed shut by itself. The next morning, they all ate breakfast together. The Peron family felt a sense of peace. Everyone was going to stay there for a few more days. Lorraine went outside to collect some clothes she had hung out to dry. Suddenly, a strong wind began to blow. She saw a shadowy figure on the clothes. The clothes flew all the way to Carolyn's bedroom window, and Lorraine saw a figure standing in front of the window. Carolyn was sleeping in her bed. Suddenly, a handprint appeared on her hand. Immediately, that figure vomited blood on Carolyn's face. Carolyn screamed loudly. Only Lorraine heard her scream and rushed to check on her. When asked about her condition, Carolyn just said she felt like throwing up for no reason. Meanwhile, Roger went to Ed and thanked him for helping their family wholeheartedly. Ed replied that the thanks belonged to Lorraine because everything she sensed about the supernatural forces affected her badly. A few months ago, they were working on another case, and Lorraine saw a figure in that victim that shook her to the core. That's why Ed didn't want Lorraine involved in this work. However, she came here thinking about their daughters. That night, the police officer was making tea in the kitchen. Suddenly, he heard a noise from outside and went to check. He saw nothing outside. When he came back in, he heard a woman's voice saying, "Look what she made me do." The unknown voice kept repeating the same thing. The voice was coming from the laundry room. As he entered the room, a nurse-like figure suddenly screamed at him. Hearing the scream, everyone rushed there. Meanwhile, Cindy started sleepwalking again. They followed her. She was going upstairs. Walking to a room, she closed the door. When Drew went to his audio setup room, he heard through the headphones from the room's microphone that there was someone else in the room with Cindy, telling her to hide. When they opened the door to the room, they saw the window was closed, everything was closed, but Cindy was not in the room. Drew hastily brought out a UV light. Turning off the room's light, he checked for Cindy's footprints. The footprints were visible up to the wardrobe. Cindy was not found in the wardrobe. When he knocked on the wooden partition, a sound came from one place. Breaking the partition, A secret space was revealed, and they found Cindy there. Lorraine entered that space. She found a rope there. When she pulled the rope, she realized it was a noose. Suddenly, the wood broke, and Lorraine fell straight into the basement. Everyone frantically started looking for her. In the basement, Lorraine found the music box toy. She heard the weeping sound of an old woman. She played the music box and tried to look behind her with a flashlight. She heard the same words again. "She made me do it." In the mirror, she saw an old woman with a knife killing a girl and staring at her with her head tilted. When she looked back, there was no one. When she looked forward again, the figure was instantly gone. Lorraine tried to look around carefully with the flashlight. She started moving slowly and quietly. Suddenly, she saw two dangling legs in front of her. Frightened, she slowly backed away. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, she ran out of there. But someone from behind grabbed her locket and pulled her. Somehow, she managed to save herself and got back upstairs, leaving her locket there. Lorraine now understood the whole incident. She screamed, saying that Bathsheba's soul target is mothers. She possesses the mothers to kill their children and then reveals it to everyone. She said Bathsheba had already possessed Carolyn. As soon as she said this, all the holy crosses in the house turned upside down. A lock of Nancy's hair floated in the air. An invisible force grabbed Nancy's hair, threw her towards the window, and started dragging and pulling her from side to side. Everyone present was unable to stop Nancy. Eventually, they had to cut Nancy's hair. Drew recorded all of this. Now they had gathered proper evidence. They would submit all this evidence to Father Gordon. They spent the night there. The next morning, they all left the house. As they were leaving, Lorraine felt like someone was calling her from the pond. When she went to the pond, she saw her daughter Judy's reflection in the water. It didn't take Lorraine a minute to realize that this was the work of Bathsheba. This was a threat from Bathsheba to Lorraine because Lorraine's locket had fallen in the basement, and that locket had her only daughter, Judy's, picture in it. The devil's trap is very dangerous. As they attack people's most vulnerable spot, Lorraine immediately called her home and asked her mother-in-law if Judy was in her room. An emergency check confirmed that Judy was fine, but she told Ed the entire incident. Later, Ed and Lorraine told the entire story to the father and showed him the proper evidence, but the father did not want to perform the exorcism. The reason was that the Peron family was not Christian. They did not believe in any religion. Despite this, Ed and Lorraine pleaded with the father and informed him that they would wait for his call. It was raining heavily outside that night. Judy suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. Her grandmother was sleeping in her room, and Lorraine was still at home. Judy called for her parents but received no response. The antique room was always closed, but for some reason, it was open that day. She called out to her father from outside the room, but no one was inside the room. She saw the Annabelle doll was not in the glass case. Judy was scared and started to walk towards her room, but the entire area slowly started to become dark due to some unknown force. The creaking sound of a body hanging from a rope was heard. Scared, Judy reached the reading room. She locked the door, but someone from outside was banging on the door very hard. Suddenly, the sound stopped from outside, but now the inside of the room was becoming completely dark. The sound of a chair moving was heard from behind. When she turned around, she saw a woman sitting with the Annabelle doll, and the doll suddenly looked at Judy. Judy screamed loudly, and Lorraine arrived home and got Judy out of the room. Judy said the Annabelle doll was free, but when Ed checked, he saw the Annabelle doll was in its proper place. Meanwhile, Roger returned to the hotel and heard from his daughters that their mother had gone somewhere with Christine and April. Roger immediately called Ed and told him about it. Lorraine realized that Carolyn had taken her two daughters to kill them. Now they had to go to the farmhouse, but Ed was reluctant to take Lorraine. Lorraine told her husband that if they didn't solve this case now, there would be a big problem in their family. She absolutely had to go. Ed and Lorraine took police officer Brad with them. The gate was locked from the inside. The police officer shot the gate open. Upon entering, they heard struggling sounds from the basement. When they arrived, they saw Carolyn trying to kill April. The scissors were immediately taken from her hand. They wanted to take her to the church. As soon as they tried to take her outside the house, blisters began to appear on her body. Bathsheba didn't want her to be taken out of the house. Lorraine realized that she couldn't be kept away from the house, or she would die. Christine was kept in the car, but April was missing. So Drew searched thoroughly for April. A struggle was going on in the basement. No one present was as strong as Carolyn. At one point, Carolyn bit police officer Brad's cheek, completely tearing off the flesh. Somehow, they all managed to tie Carolyn to a chair with white cloth. They thought of bringing Father Gordon there, but it would take a long time for him to arrive. They had very little time, so Ed decided to perform the exorcism himself. Lorraine brought the Bible from the house and began to read. Bible verses in Latin were being recited. Holy water was sprinkled on Carolyn's body. Carolyn felt intense pain internally. Her screams caused all the furniture to fall down. Outside the farmhouse, a multitude of pigeons gathered. Pigeons were falling like rain from the sky. Without being distracted, Ed continued to read the Bible. At one point, Carolyn started vomiting blood. Meanwhile, Drew found April under the dining room floorboards and started breaking the planks. The Bible reading continued, but Carolyn suddenly stopped, as if the Bible had no effect on her. The reason was that it was now 3:07 a.m. Carolyn, along with the chair, started floating in the air. Roger pleaded with the spirit inside Carolyn to leave her body, but Carolyn was giving a demonic laugh. The spirit inside Carolyn replied to them, saying Carolyn was dead, and now it was their turn. Drew, having found April, shouted from upstairs, "I found April!" Carolyn heard this. She grabbed the scissors and fled from the chair, heading towards April. Ed saw Bathsheba's true form there. From upstairs, Lorraine placed her hand on Carolyn's head and started to bless her, reminding her of her past and the dream she had for her family. At one point, looking at April's face, Carolyn slowly began to normalize. Then, the morning light reached Ed's body, and slowly, she returned to her true self. At the end of the movie, April gave Lorraine the locket that her daughter Judy had given her. That cursed music box toy was kept in Ed and Lorraine's museum. This was the true story-based movie, The Conjuring, 2013. Although many events in the movie have been changed, it is based on a true story. This is my 5th movie explanation in the Conjuring universe, which has a total of 8 movies. If you want to see the next parts, please comment on this video and let me know. If we get a good response on this video, I will definitely bring the subsequent movies to my channel, so please support the video. Also, if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the subscribe button and set it to all. Till then, see you in the next video. Goodbye, stay with me.